Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm ready to get my bench space reclaimed. So all those new shiny parts, and that one too, because I'm tired of the lift being in my way, are going to go back onto the Preparation H back end. So the first thing we need to do, I've cut these new cork seal rings for where the brake actuator shafts exit the brake covers. We will be throwing these on first because, well, they're kind of, they go on first before everything else that we have here. The other thing I'm going to do is back both of the brake band adjustment set screws completely out because they will be reset upon installation. We'll start with the left side brake, and here's another view of that adjustment screw. You can see it right in there. That's the bottom end support for that brake band. Keeps it centered on the drum. So there's just a very simple adjustment to do to that. And when I place these in, I always put a little bit of grease on all the pivots, and the band is held on to the actuator cams by those floating pins. When you stack everything up together, the pins will contact the inside of the cover, and then they'll contact the outside of the case so they can't come out of the band. Oh, and I should have also mentioned, I replaced these bands the last time I was into the tractor, so they're still good. Flipped over again now, we can put the actuation lever on. So there's a woodruff key has to go in the slot. And we've got two actuation levers. We have one that does not have much offset to it. That's for the left side. The one for the right side has more offset to it. Spreading these slightly with a flat bladed screwdriver aids greatly in their installation. It slides right down the shaft that way. You're not having to tap it, hammer it. Pinch bolt with the lock washer and the nut go in. We'll cinch those tight. And now we can bolt it on. Just have to be sure to get the band started around the drum. There we are, and get the actuator shaft started inside the bushing. And the 5 perimeter bolts that hold the cover to the rear case. There we are. That band can be a little bit springy on the drum, so there we are. Took 2 hands to get that cover aligned so that we could start the bolts. Performing all of the same steps for the right side. At this point, we can begin hanging the pedals, and the clutch pedal has to go on first because it's going to be inboard of the rest of the brake linkage that's on this side. And woodruff key in place for this lower pivot bracket. Pulls on the actuator lever for the brake band on this left side. Trying to work it on without pushing this brake pedal shaft all the way through. Sometimes a slight tap on the spreader chisel helps. Yep, there we are. And now we can cinch it in place with the pinch bolt. Other side of the tractor, woodruff key in place once again. We do the inside brake pedal now. I've got this one spread slightly with a chisel as well. And I know I'm doing this a little bit out of order, but we're back to the other side again. I want to throw the return spring on the lever here, which is going to ensure the pedal over there stays up, doesn't flop down. Very good. Outer brake pedal now, and I do grease this and also the clutch pedal at the bottom because these pivot on the shaft. I don't know if it does much good or if it just attracts, somebody's texting me, or if it just attracts more dirt, but I do it anyway. And that large washer outside of it and secured with a cotter pin. And same deal as the other side, return spring going on to hold everything in place. And as long as we're on a roll, I'm going to put the clutch pedal rod on as well because, well, I don't want to have that pedal just flopping loose either. So things are beginning to come together, and we are at the point where we can do the brake system adjustments. The left side is loaded and ready to go, and I've already finalized the right side because it's a little bit more busy over here. The left side will be easier to demonstrate with. So what we want to do is center the brake band on the drum and end up with pedal free travel of 1 3/8 to 1 1/2 inches from the beam of the brake pedal to the stop on the front edge of the top cover. Now, the way I prefer to do this is to temporarily pin the adjustable pull rod right here to the brake actuation lever. We can check and see what our pedal travel is like, and it's still quite excessive, but that's all right because this tensions the brake band just enough around the drum that we can do the set screw adjustment on the bottom. What we do now is tighten the set screw until it contacts the bottom of the brake band up inside. Okay, I like to just make sure, yep, there's our hard stop. And now we back it off 1/2 of a turn. We can then cinch the jam nut. Which locks it all in place. And now we're at the point where we can set the pedal free travel. We're still quite loose, so that means we need to shorten the length of the pull rod. So I'll do 1/2 turn, 1 turn, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2, 3, and we'll just see where that lands. This is all just trial and error. And I like to just go the easy route at this point, compare the pedal that I'm adjusting to the pedal that I've already adjusted. And you can see we're still a little bit loose on the left side. So we'll go in. I did 1 1/2 turns. We'll see where it ends up at 1 1/2. I would say 1 more turn. Perfect. This is where we can tighten the jam nut on the pull rod, locking that down. And then this thin washer goes on the inside of the top pin right here. And finally the cotter pin goes through. That will get folded, and that finishes the adjustment of the brake system. All right, next up is the belt pulley drive. That means we can finally get the back end sealed up. No more large open hole where things could fall into the gear case. All of these bolts get sealer on the threads because none of these are blind holes. So that just cuts down on oil seepage that will come up through. And the buildup continues. Time for the belt pulley. And I love these steel belt pulleys. We don't really run anything off the belt anymore. If I can even get the bolt started. There we are. So, you know, a paper pulley is going to give you a lot more grip on the belt than a steel will. But to me, steel pulley just looks cool. So that's what we're going to do. Hardware for this, of course, the dot top bolts. Got to do that. And correct for this application is the external tooth lock washer. I think they do that to keep the stack height of the hardware to a minimum so that we don't get too close to any of these bolts. This is another washer that I don't put any paint on because I think just having extra paint on all those teeth just kind of adds redundancy. I also avoid painting the joint right here between the belt pulley and the drive flange. That's another spot that I just prefer to have a metal on metal fit. We don't have any squeeze out of paint. It doesn't loosen the joint, so we'll just go around with a touch-up brush later, get all these bare metal spots. We're clearing the bench. Let's do the rear fuel tank support next. It just goes on right behind the belt pulley drive. 3 bolts right down at the base. Front fuel tank support, as long as we're in the mode. Then the upper bracket on top of that. This is what holds the bearing block for the steering shaft where it goes down through, as well as the gauge pod. Some may call it an instrument panel. All right, everybody, we're coming down to it. Last few pieces left to put on. We might as well do the PTO engagement rod and the guide bracket for it. That goes under the bolt for the top deck on this back corner. Once again, sealer on the bolt threads. I held off on sealer on this bolt when I was putting the top deck on because I knew it was going to be coming out again for this rod. Small washer goes, let's get this clicked up, there we go, a little easier to get at. Small washer goes on first, and then the cotter pin. The main steering pedestal shaft will go on, but I'm not going to tighten the bolts completely because, well, I still need to feed the steering shaft up through it this way. And we've already got this piece on in the way right here. I was fine with putting that on. We'll just leave this so we can maybe kick it back if we need to, get that steering shaft put in, kick it back forward, then we'll tighten those bolts down. We were going to be all smooth about this too. New paint is slippery. And I do believe that is a hailstorm. Let's go see. That kicked up fast. Yep, there's hail coming down. Stay strong, Big Red. Stay strong. Yeah, tried to catch some. Here we are. They rolled clear in the door. All right, I'm taking you off the pole again. We had one piece left, and then the power went out. Darn it. Well, Senior and I decided to take a drive because we don't have any lights on and no electricity to do anything with, and we saw quite a few power trucks heading this way. So we've got some flashing lights up ahead. Lines are awfully slack, and yeah, they're completely down right here.
Got a pole down.
Yep, there's a pole down, and there's an old dead tree. Looks like broke off and probably took the pole with it. All the lines are down. There's the dead tree. Sticks all over the road. Well, it looks like it's going to be a while before we have any power back. Might not finish the video tonight, I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. Might be tomorrow before we get it done. Big news, everybody. We just got the lights back. We can get to that one last piece, but we've got to roll. It's going to be a late one if I'm going to get this all in yet tonight. So the crossbar for the lights, I'm going to put that on because I don't want to have it sitting around where it can get bumped into and knocked and dinged and all that good stuff. So let's do it. This is also the one that I picked up at Le Sueur at the swap meet. So thanks again, fellas, for selling it to me. They said they watched the channel. Hopefully they're watching now. Make sure we get it put on correctly too, because my grandfather had it on backwards the last time and I had to go and reverse it to make the toolbox fit. So we don't want to have to do that again. Here it is, everybody. 2-hour delay, but we got that last piece put on. I'm liking this steel belt pulley option. It blends well with the old steel War Baby shift knob. Brakes, everything are all in. Fuel tank mounts are on. Steering pedestal, like I said, we left that just a touch loose, but that's all right. All of our painted parts are now assembled. I like how they weld the balance weight into those. Really like those steel pulleys. So that's going to do it for the assembly portion from today. All that monkey motion on there. Loving it. But one final thing I wanted to squeeze in on this episode. Under the last episode, Jasper from Mississippi says, I have a question. How different is the way you are painting from the way it was painted at the factory? Did they paint the parts individually like that, or wait until it was all assembled and paint everything at once, or a combination of both? They pretty much had everything except for the rubber put onto these, and then they painted them. Even in 1945, the way we paint tractors today with all the individual pieces and getting paint clear onto the back sides of things, that would have made the bean counters, even back then, want to vomit. They didn't put a whole lot of work into painting these at all. Paint runs were common to see. Some pieces only got paint on maybe one side of them. The back sides were still pretty raw. Here's an interesting photo from, and the credit for this goes to the Farmall Letter Series Tractors Originality Guide. There are the authors down there. I can't take credit for it, but this is an interesting old factory photo of them painting a Farmall Cub going down the line, and you can see wheel hubs are in place, front axle wheel hubs down to there, no wheels or tires, but they have suspended it and it is being trolleyed along an assembly line as this guy paints away. They had water cascading down around and underneath to catch overspray and the like, and that's pretty much how it was done back then. These were mass-produced machines, and they weren't spending a lot of time into putting a spit and polish shine finish on them like we do today. We're doing it more for recreation today and just the love of the hobby. That concludes this episode, everyone. A few bumps in the road, but we might pull a midnighter tonight, get it thrown together yet, get her cooking for the feed tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Hope to see y'all back again.